everybody, welcome back to Findmypast from home. It's time for Friday's Live. I hope you're all having a good week. What's new with you? I feel like we haven't done this in forever. I mean, I was supposed to be live last week, I think it was, but unfortunately the guest we were supposed to have on for Your Ancestors and Pets, unfortunately she took ill at the last moment, so we've had to rearrange that. So yeah, it does sort of feel like I haven't done this in a while. So hello, I hope you're all having a great day, a good week. It's nearly the weekend, the weather's perking up. It's all good. So I'm really happy. Please say hello in the comments. Say where you're tuning in from, how your day has been, what the weather's like, whatever you fancy. Jen is in the comments as well, so please do say hi to her. So yes, lovely. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Ellie. I look after social media for Findmypast if you're new here. And yeah, we've got a lot to get through this week. So we're going to be doing new records. We're going to be looking at newspapers. We are going to be doing, talking all about newspapers because newspapers are amazing. I'm going to be doing a little live site demo and I'll explain why in a moment. And the other thing I want to discuss as well briefly at the beginning is something exciting that's happening next week. I'm really excited. Right, before I move on, let's say hello. Who have we got here saying hello in the comments? Anya saying, happy Genealogy Friday. It is Genealogy Friday and I love it, love it, love it, love it. Who else have we got here? We've got Matthew, hello. Trisha, got Debbie. Fantastic, so many of you, Karen and Ellen and Roxanne. I would be here all day if I said hello to all of you individually. So, but we'll move on. Please continue chatting to each other. Tell us about what you found this week. Have you made an exciting discovery? Have you already been into the new records, for example? This is the kind of thing I want to know about this week. And thank you also for everybody who has already submitted an answer for question of the week. And the question of the week is, if you haven't seen it already, it's what is your all-time favorite discovery from the historical newspapers and why? It doesn't have to be from Findmypast or the British Newspaper Archive. It could be from any newspaper archive. I would just really like to hear what it is. Let's share. What have we found? And I will share my one as well. Something else I want to mention, if you have been into the Friday's blog this week, the one that tells you which records have come online this week, which new newspapers, near the end of this blog post, you will see that we are giving you the chance to vote on which records are released next week. We haven't done this before, it's quite exciting. So if you haven't yet, head over there to cast your vote. It's dead simple. All you do is click on the one of the three options that are listed there. So you can choose from some military records, an early regional Scottish census, and also some English monumental inscriptions. So this means that next week, one of the record sets that gets released will be chosen by you, our amazing community. And we're also going to be doing this next week as well. So next week, you'll get to vote as well. Super, super exciting. You get to shape the records we release for the next couple of weeks. I love this. And if you want to do this on a more regular basis, we can maybe speak to our content licensing team, our data team, and see what we can do. But yeah, head over there and vote now if you haven't already. Lovely. So the first thing I wanted to chat about is to tease a little bit at what is coming next week. So it's a multitude of things. I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to spoil it. But do you remember a few weeks ago, it might have even been last month at this point, I asked you what you would like to see from us if we were to do sort of thank you for being such an amazing community, a way to sort of give back to you. And we really want to celebrate and recognise the way you help each other out. You support each other, but you do also support us as well, which is just wonderful. So we listened, and this is happening next week. So Monday to Sunday, we've got various things happening across our social media pages. So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So my advice would be to have a look at all of them to make sure you you get the most out of it, so to speak. And there's going to be something for everybody. And I don't want to give too much else away because otherwise I'm going to spoil it. But basically, 9 o'clock UK time, Monday morning, go and have a look at our social media pages. And at 10 o'clock, you can go and take a look at a special blog post that's going to go up on Findmypast. That is as much as I'm going to say. Now, I wonder if there are any guesses in the comments as to what's going to be happening. I can see Joan actually, not Joan, Joan saying hi, I'm from Jamaica, but Anya saying I voted already. Good, fantastic. Lots of people saying hello as well, which is good. So yes, tune in Monday next week to see what yeah, I'm really excited. This has been a huge amount of work from so many people at Findmypast, and it's all for you, all to say thank you to you, and I can't wait. Okay, keep the question of the week coming in, and remember, I want to know about your all-time favourite discovery from the newspapers and why it's your favourite discovery. That's what I want to know this week. So let's move on. Let's do, if I can find... We're going to do new records now. And if you are new here, if you need to Findmypast, you may not know that we add new family history records to Findmypast and new newspapers every single week. Thousands more records, thousands more newspaper pages. You can make a new discovery, break it down a brick wall, add somebody to your family tree. The list goes on and on. There's a new chance for that every single week. So in terms of what we've got for you this week, if you've not had a look at the blog already, we've added 27,000 Middlesex baptisms, and these are from 1557 to 1879. That's the record set as a whole, but the ones we've added are for the parishes of Ealing, Harrow, Hayes, and Hillingdon. So if you've got ancestors from those areas, you're going to be wanting to check these out this weekend. You'll get baptism date, parents' names, father's occupation, and quite often their residence as well, which is really handy, especially when you've got ancestors with more common names and you're trying to figure out, is this my family of Smiths? Usually you can use the residence to figure that one out, and also that all-important father's occupation. Really, really handy. Next up, these next two releases are rolling releases. So what we've done, we've added more records into the Carmarthenshire baptisms for the year 1921. There's about 1,800 in there, and then 1,200 into the marriages, and those are for 1936. So how do I explain this? With baptisms, for example, there's a 100-year rule on them. So now that it's it's not 1921, it's 2021. We can add baptisms for 1921, for example. Some of these records have things like, I was looking through them earlier, some of the band's records, for example, have both parties' addresses on them. So not just their residence, but actually their address. Really, really, really useful. And we've got the original images for those too, which is great. And this Welsh collection, all of our Welsh records, it just keeps getting better. We have the best and most comprehensive collection of Welsh records anywhere online. So if you have Welsh ancestors, you're going to want to stop by, whether you do it this weekend, whether you do it during the week, whatever. And as I said, if you haven't already, head into the blog, vote on which of the 3 records you want being released next week, and it's all going to be shaped by you. Super exciting. Okay, right, let's have a quick look in the comments before I do newspapers, just to make sure I don't miss anything. Apparently there's talk of a band again. Yeah, we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, about the Findmypast band? Oh, yes. Maybe when we can actually all meet up again. Oh yes, Daphne saying, will it involve some guitar playing? It's not in the plan, but I'm now thinking we should put this into the plan for one of the, I'm being super, super cryptic, I'm so sorry, but it all will be revealed on Monday. Yes. Okay, right, let me do newspapers quickly. So in terms of newspapers for this week, we've added over 150,000 new pages to the archive. We've got new titles like the London and China Express, Express, which was first published in 1858. And this was for things like commercial intelligence. And you get things like lists of passengers, you get family announcements, you get naval and military intelligence, shipping news. So if you've got ancestors who were over that side of the world, and this will be really good for you. So definitely check that out. And then for other new newspapers, we've got quite a few from Scotland this week. So we've got the Weekly Free Press and Aberdeen Herald. That was first founded in 1806. Things like poetry, novels, local news, family announcements. I love these family announcements, they're so good. Gold dust. Next, we've got the Saturday Inverness Advertiser, the Kirriemuir. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, I'm so sorry. I've lived in Scotland for 5 years and I still can't pronounce half of these place names. The Kirriemuir Advertiser and General Advertiser, no, Observer and General Advertiser. Yes, the Kirriemuir Free Press and also the Angus Advertiser as well. And then we've got the Teviotdale Record and Jedburgh Advertiser. So lots of Scottish newspapers that I cannot pronounce. I'm sorry. And then we've got new pages into 8 existing titles. And there's a broad spectrum there. We've got new pages into the Blackpool Gazette and Herald, and also into the West Britain and Cornwall Advertisers. There's loads there for you to explore. Full details are available on the blog. Okay, the next thing I wanted to go through with you was a little site demo. Now, I'm just going to share my screen quickly so you can see what I'm doing. Let's have a look. Okay, so you should be able to see part of my family tree there. Fab. So whenever we make improvements to Findmypast, we do like to talk about them, but sometimes those improvements are perhaps not worth a whole email on their own or a whole social media post on their own, but they're still worth telling you about. So what I'm going to try and do with this one is show you what we've updated and why we've updated it. And let me know your thoughts on it as well. Always love to hear your feedback. And this update has actually been made on the back of your feedback. So we always take note of it. And there are always project engineers, designers, owners, managers, etc. within Findmypast who they all want to make this website better for you. So this is just one of those examples. So this was something that was highly requested, and one of our junior software developers actually worked on this over the last couple of weeks. So before now, if you find this little button here, find someone on your tree. If you went in there and you tried to search for somebody who was on your family tree, you know who they are already. But say, for example, you can't remember their first name. You only remember their middle name. If you went and searched for that before, and you just search their middle name, they're not going to come up in the list. So this search originally was very, very restrictive. So you said change it, we listened. Now what you'll find is if you click find someone on this tree, which is the quickest way to bring somebody up nice and quick, changes the view of the tree as well, I can now search for the names out of order. So that's really, really useful. So for example, if I want to bring up, on my family tree, we've got the middle name Lane that comes from I think it's my mum's side. Yes, my mum's side. The middle name Lane, which was originally a surname, if I remember that and I'm trying to find them nice and easily, but normally it wouldn't come up because it's a middle name, I can now type in Lane. And look, we've got Thomas Lane Overthrow there. We've got Samuel Thomas Lane Overthrow, etc., etc. The other thing you can do with it as well, you can search by either the birth year or the death year. So based on the information that you can see on the tree at the moment, so you've got the birth year and the death year, you can search by those as well. So say, for example, you are trying to find an ancestor and you know that great uncle George or whoever died in, I don't know, 1893, but you can't remember his middle name. I don't know. Anyway, you can now search by like that. So you can search 1893, but you can't. It's not just the whole year itself. If you type in, I don't know, you want to see who was born or who died in, I don't know, the 1920s, you can start and you can type it in like that. And you'll see there that you get results. You get 1924, you get 1920, you get 1928. So you don't have to put in the full year. Now, what the Alexandra who worked on this actually said to me was, if you guys have any suggestions for ways we can improve this even further, make it a little bit more seamless for you, let us know. You can put them in the comments of this video here, and I will pass them on to her. Now, there's also something else I just want to point out as well. Some of you have also asked for a quick way to make your tree into a pedigree view. Previously, you had to go into a person's profile and then change it to pedigree view. Now it's even easier. So all you have to do is find this little button here. If you hover over it, it says go to pedigree view, and it'll take you over there. Easy. Really, really nice. You can change the view again from here. So if you find that drop down there, you can change it to family view, profile view, people view, and back to family view like that. Lastly, before I move on, where you can see find someone on this tree, in case you didn't know about this, this is a really handy little tool. Click view all people on this tree. That will take you through to the people view. And this is an even more intuitive search of the people on your family tree. So say, for example, I wanted to find all overthrows with the place of Gloucester. So they've either were born in Gloucester, got married in Gloucester, or died in Gloucester. So all I have to do is go filter by last name. I pop in overthrow, and then I put in Gloucester. And there you go. It filters everybody for you there. Isn't that handy? And they did move out of Gloucester eventually. You know, they started to move around, and, you know, some of them ended up in Birmingham, like so, or Kings Norton. If I put the space in, that probably might work. There you go. And again, they ended up in Wales. I'm an example of that, and you can put in Wales. There we go, nice and easy. So let me know what you think. And as I said, if you have any other suggestions of things that you would like, you know, other improvements we could make, pop it in the comments and let us know. Now, let's have a flick through some of the comments here before I move on. Can't believe we're already 18 minutes in. Just flicking through. Yeah, Anya saying, that's great to make it easier. What about being able to search for the place name as well? That would make things easier. Absolutely, yeah, that's definitely something we could look at. Wonderful. Okay, right, let's move on then. So we're going to do question of the week now. And before we do, I'm just going to have a little sip of water. So question of the week is, what's your all-time favourite discovery from the historical newspapers and why? And I got lots in advance, so thank you very much. I think mine was probably, I think it was about a year ago now, we added some new North Wales newspapers to Findmypast and the British Newspaper Archive. And I went and explored them. I did, I think, one quick search after putting the name Overthrow in. And I found a wedding announcement. So I've spoken about this before, but I found a wedding announcement of my grandparents. My grandfather is no longer with us, but it was just, I've seen photographs of the wedding day, and I got, in this one newspaper article that was so easy to find, I had a description of the ceremony and the reception, who was there, who the bridesmaids were, what the bridesmaids wore, and who gave the bride away, and really special for me, what my grandmother was wearing and the flowers she carried. And it was just a complete wow moment for me, something that was really personal and special to me. The first thing I had to do was text my mum. I was like, look what I've just found. And then she showed it to my grandma as well. And I think my grandma had one of the wedding announcements framed, but it was from a different newspaper. So this one she hadn't seen before. So that was really special. Okay, now let's have a look at some of the ones that you guys submitted in advance. So William, who sadly is not with us today because he's at work, but hello if you end up watching back, William. He said, whilst quite difficult as there's many great finds in the newspapers, one which stands out was one of my granddad's brothers confirmed the stories of life in Hong Kong, but also revealed lost middle names, which appears to pass through the family. This is what newspapers are great for. You can find little things that are not going to appear in normal records as well. I was hunting today. I've been looking at a family of overthrows who are related to me, but it's not my direct line. I've come across a family of them who had 5 or 6 sons who served in the army during World War I, which I thought was interesting. And I've been researching them individually, and I found that, you know, one of them died, I think. One of them, I found something about an illegitimate child. Yeah, the list goes on. And again, it's not something you're going to find in a regular record, in a census record or a birth record. Irene says she shared a very sad story, actually, but one that was still quite informative. So she said her great-grandmother, there was an inquest of a house fire in which 2 young children sadly died, and this was in the 1870s. Jeff says, I've got over 200 match reports of my grandfather who played for West Bromwich Albion up to 1909. And he says, I reckon about the same again to find up to 1914. There's so much of the sport news in there. In fact, we're sharing something on social media tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, about the first FA Cup final and how that was reported. So that's really cool as well. Anne says, my husband's 2 times great grandfather, who was town beadle, town crier and cobbler of Dorchester, getting thrown out of the Tory club for thumping the chairman of the Conservative club with a stick and swearing at him. He was said to have accused the chairman of misappropriation of funds. The headline was "Fracas at a Tory club." It makes me laugh. Probably not at all funny at the time, and I can imagine the uproar. He was fined for his misdemeanor, and he was not well off, and he had a large family to support. So she says, I doubt he was very popular at the time. But yeah, it is quite, we can look back now and laugh at something like that, but at the time it may not have been so funny for them. June says she's found stories of 2 of her convict ancestors. And Janet says she found her ancestor remarrying his first wife 48 years after their first marriage at the same registry office. They had divorced in 1908, they both remarried, and then they were later both widowed. They then had a chance meeting at a local pub with his long-lost son, led to meeting his first wife again, and not all information in the newspaper reports was actually accurate, Janet goes on to say, but it solved a family mystery as he tended to use, apparently, his deceased brother's name, date of birth, and things like that on records. She goes on to say there's still so much more to find out about him, especially his military service, but this was, this knocked down a bit of a brick wall for her sons. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to have a scroll through of the comments now and find some more questions of the week to pick out. I've gone all the way back up to the top. Lots of comments for me to get through. It's really handy, by the way, whenever you put a question of the week at the top, because then I can easily pick them out. What have I got? Daphne saying, I've tried and failed to get around the Findmypast newspapers. Do you know what? There are a couple of blog guides we've got. Hopefully, if Jen, if she hasn't already, if you could pick one out, Jen. There's one we shared on social media this week. That one would probably be really useful. Fantastic. Okay, let's have a scroll through. Excuse me. Beth saying there are too many to choose from, but the main ones are some death funeral notices about family members. Also, some articles about one of the last bare knuckle fighters in Birmingham, who was my great uncle. That's cool. That's cool. Paul saying, mine from Findmypast newspapers. I found details of my great grandfather's suicide in 1909. No one in the family knew he killed himself. So sad to find, but so interesting. Goodness, yes. I think this is the thing sometimes. I think it's with family history in general. You never know what you're going to find. Some of the things you find are they're going to make you smile. They're going to make you laugh. Not all discoveries are going to warm your heart. Some of them will make you quite sad, I think. I think as long as we accept that and we know that going in, I think this is why family history isn't for everybody. I think not everybody wants to go in and explore the past like that. I think some people would just rather it stay where it is, and that's completely fine. If they don't want to know about, you know, tragic things that happened in their family history. But yes, it's very sad to hear that. Okay, we've got one from Matthew here. I was looking at an 1885 newspaper for an ancestor. I came across an article about a train crash in my hometown. A train en route from Liverpool to London derailed. Excuse me. What else have we got? We've got Cooper saying, my great-grandmother being a runaway aged 14. They blamed the priest, which was not true. She was taken in by a rich family to be a servant. She ran away because she didn't want to work in the family business. Goodness. Okay, I'm still flicking through here. Anya saying, finding my 2 times great-grandfather in the Wigan newspapers in 1901, reporting his experiences in Borneo. He left his family behind and went to Borneo to work in the gold mines. A very interesting account. And Anya's put a link in there as well. Thank you so much. So if you scroll back up, if you want to have a look at Anya's newspaper article, just click on the link. You can do that. Matthew saying, my personal favourite thing from the newspapers has been finding my great-great-grandparents in the papers. Both were in court for assaulting each other and being drunk. She assaulted him with her walking stick, and another case he was charged with assaulting her. Goodness. The newspapers are great for crimes, you know, local things that appeared in local courts. Really good for that. But sometimes, again, it comes back to, do we actually want to know? I suppose. Okay, flicking through. Apologies, everybody. This is what happens when I try and pick out comments. Okay, Jane says, my great-great-grandmother built a mill in Yorkshire. After his death in 1890, his son sold up and moved the family to Southport. Lots of speculation in the family, but found an answer in the newspapers. The mill had caught fire during some terrible storms. It was badly damaged and over £4,000 worth of damage. If the fire hadn't happened, my grandfather might not have met my grandmother and I wouldn't be here. That's an interesting one. I've actually got little goosebumps just reading that out and thinking about the sort of the consequences of, you know, something as tragic as, you know, the mill burning down. You know, people may have been injured, may have lost their livelihoods, but if that hadn't happened, you wouldn't be here. Yeah, it's weird when you start going down these. Yeah, I'm going to move on. I could talk all day about things like that. Okay. Linda saying, I found a picture, an editorial that her hubby's great-grandfather supported a Conservative candidate's application to enter an election. He was a miner from the North Midlands, and we really thought he was a Labour supporter. That's a good one. I like that. Yes, in terms of what you're voting for, if you head over to the Friday's blog for this week, the What's New, we talk about our new records. If you scroll down, you can actually vote for which records you want next week. There's 3 different options and you can vote. And the winner will be brought to Findmypast next week. Super exciting. One big problem with newspapers, it is easy to get distracted. Yes. Absolutely, I can see Jen grinning as well. It's so easily done with genealogy overall, but you can definitely fall down a rabbit hole with newspapers, I find. Okay, scrolling on. Oh goodness, I just sang. I'm so sorry. I'm never going to do that again. Maybe when we have the band, but not quite today. Okay. So Joan says, found in the newspaper the family of my great-great-grandfather, who was in business with him, that they were not responsible for any money owing by him. And Victoria, finding ancestors' two brothers in sport newspapers who professionally played at tennis at Queen's Club in London. I've been there. To find photographs too was wonderful, as I'd only seen their names on censuses and they were sport professionals. Great to find the evidence. Yes. Lovely. I'm still going. I'm so sorry. There's lots to get through. Linda says, finding the obituary of a lady that had disappeared. Last seen on the 1901 Scottish census. Turns out she married and then her lodger went off to America. Only found her as her son had an unusual middle name and it was mentioned in the obituary. It was a fair bit of happy dancing done that day, I can tell you. I think we've all done that little happy dance. Mine sort of looks a little bit like this. I don't know what anybody else's are like. I don't know whether you're all doing your little genealogy happy dance at home. I don't know. Jen's doing this. I can see Jen doing this. Oh, fantastic. Carol saying she found the report of the ship that her great-granddad's great-uncle, who was a soldier guarding convicts to New South Wales, travelled on in 1843. Roxanne, we knew that my 3 times great-grandfather played the violin. While looking through papers, I was able to find an article about a performance that included his siblings. It stated 3 of the 4 holdings, we believe, played half a dozen instruments each. The 4th was a 4-year-old who played the drum. Very musical family. I'd be really interested to know, Roxanne, what else you found out about them. Yeah. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Okay. Okay, I think let's just read a couple more because these are so good today, everybody. Wendy's saying, I found a 2 times great uncle who disappeared as soon as he arrived. We had the arrival record, but that was it. Discovered he changed his name and actually lived just a few miles from the rest of the family. My mother never knew about him. Again, breaking down that brick wall, doing the little genealogy happy dance. Oh no, that's going to become a thing now, isn't it? Oh dear. Okay. Okay, right. Let's move on then. Actually, I think I've just missed Beth's. Let's just read Beth's. I found some newspaper articles about my great-great-uncle who was a pickpocket from Birmingham. There were also some reports of him committing acts of violence against his wife or suspected. Another report was about the court case against him for manslaughter. My granddad kept mentioning his uncle, who was a well-known pickpocket, and then in one conversation dropped the fact that he'd killed somebody. The newspaper articles have filled in the details. I think a lot of this sort of like family lore, family mythology almost, I think the newspapers are in particular so good for filling in those gaps. And Beth's story absolutely confirms that. And in case you didn't hear this week, we are so pleased to announce that we've renewed our long-term partnership with the British Library. So we already work with them to digitise their collection of historical newspapers, which is one of the best in the world, but it means we now get to do even more. So over the next 2 years, another 14 million pages are going to be digitised. Really exciting. Our newspaper collection, you know, we've got British and Irish newspapers. We've already got 42 million pages on there. And, you know, these are from regional and national titles and also speciality titles as well. Some of them go back to the 1700s. Can you believe it? 300 years ago. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes I have to do research for work purposes. So not just my own family tree, but say, for example, you know, I did a post for Findmypast, a blog post about the real life Bridgertons. Where did I go to start my research? I went to the newspapers. When Prince Philip passed away, I wanted to find some photographs of him that, you know, perhaps, you know, you guys hadn't seen. I went into the newspapers. it's just that good. Our newspapers, they're just amazing. But historical newspapers in general, I think they're just wonderful. And this week on social media, we've been highlighting the vast array of things you can find. You know, it's not just your family announcements. In fact, Mary McKee did a fantastic talk a couple of weeks ago about beyond family announcements in the newspapers, like the other things you can find. So whether you're into things like true crime, stories of war, how we lived 100 years ago, things like how we responded to the Spanish flu epidemic, whether it's actors who delighted audiences in theatres, you know, what our ancestors wore. There are so many fashions that you can explore, loads of illustrations and photographs, famous sport games and matches, the people who fought for our freedom, whether it was civil rights, whether it's women's rights, the list goes on and on. It's mind-boggling the amount of things that you can find within the newspapers. And the thing is, you know, that's just one end of the scale, all of that stuff. You can actually find your family in there too, as we've seen from all of your incredible submissions for Question of the Week this week. So, you know, did one of your ancestors get a slap on the wrists for not sending their child to school enough? Yes, one of mine did. Was their marriage reported with a description of their wedding dress, like I've already mentioned? Yes, that happened to me too. Or was one of your ancestors a member of the Order of the Druids, which you found through an obituary? Yep, that was also mine. So all three of those wacky discoveries, all of those are from my family tree, just mine. So can you imagine, if you've not been into the newspapers yet, what you can find? Mine just boggles at the possibilities. And we do talk about newspapers a lot at Findmypast, but that's just because we're very, very passionate about them and we think they're wonderful. So yeah, they are well worth a look. And especially when you consider the sheer amount of work that goes into bringing these online. You know, you can search through hundreds of years of history and headlines from the comfort of your home. You know, these, things that started out as, you know, big, you've probably seen them, the big bound copies of the newspapers that the libraries and archives sometimes keep, or whether they're on microfilm. You know, just for those big paper ones, you know, those, you know, each page has to be turned and scanned individually by a person. And we have a great team at Boston Spa who look after all of that. And then we've got another team in our Dundee office who look after, you know, actually digitizing them, running them through OCR and things like that. And it's a lot of work, but it's so worth it. So worth it, especially the amount of discoveries that, yeah, it makes it all worth it when you're all sharing your stories and what you found in the newspapers. It's, you know, this is just today's stories. There are still so many more, and still so many more to discover as well. So yes, the other thing about the newspapers, which is I find really interesting as well, is that they are used by historians, social historians. They are used by production companies, film crews. So yeah, if there's I don't know, a period drama shooting somewhere, and they need a newspaper to, you know, it needs to look authentic, it needs to be a certain day, a certain paper, etc., then they will come to us and they will license it through us, which is really cool. So yeah, you'll see them everywhere. And even better as well, if you don't have newspapers included in your Findmypast subscription, and you fancy a subscription to the British Newspaper Archive, which is our sister website, just the newspapers, we're actually running a 30% off sale at the moment. So if you use the code library30, all one word, library30, you can get 30% off. So yeah, fabulous. Right, let's see what you guys have been chatting to here. Matthew saying, I watched a video of the newspapers being scanned recently. It's a mammoth task, but well worth it, and we all appreciate it so much. Thanks, Matthew. Talking about long lost family. Yes, this week on Foundlings. I've not seen it myself, but I've seen the trailers on TV for it, and I have a horrible feeling that if I watch it, I'm just gonna cry. Oh yeah, I cry very easily at things like that. I cry at Who Do You Think You Are? I cry at A House Through Time. Yeah, I'm actually known within Findmypast. It's a running joke of how easily I cry, actually. Yeah, but that's a story for another day. Laura saying, thanks to newspapers, I discovered my great-great-grandfather joining the Salvation Army after a prison sentence. He was heavily involved in the early days, lots of court appearances for defending against Skeleton Army that used to beat up Salvation Army when they marched. Goodness. Jane saying, I also found a ghost story about my 4-time great-grandfather's barn in Aberdaron. Love a good ghost story. There are also ghost stories in the newspapers, actually. They're really, really... I always dip into them around the time of Halloween to see what I can find. And yeah, it's just, it's really interesting what you can find. Hello, Rosie. Same page as my great-grandma's inquest, which was itself really important to find, was a murder case followed by the accused suicide. Completely riveting. Was he guilty? Was he not? Goodness. Still so many questions. Hillary, my 2-times great-grandfather was in the newspapers for stealing opium. He worked for the Dock Company. Cliff saying, my favourite newspaper find was an advert for a certain type of trumpet that was played by a relative in the Ivy Benson band in the 1940s. Very musical today. Very musical ancestors, all of you. Yeah, Paul, I would love to read yours out, but as you say, it is a little graphic for the violence, so I'm not going to read it out. I hope you'll forgive me. Okay, I think I'm up to date. Lovely. Okay, now that actually brings me to the end of everything I wanted to chat about today. Normally I struggle to keep it within the hour, but have done quite well today, I think. So just to recap, we've made some updates to the search on the family tree. Go and have a play with it. See if there's anything else that you can think of that would improve it even further. We always love to hear. Is that update useful for you? That kind of thing we want to know. Secondly, be sure to check back Monday 9 o'clock for announcements of what is going on next week. Have a look on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and also on the blog as well at 10 o'clock. I'm really excited. Can you tell I'm so excited for what's going to be happening next week? And don't forget, head over to the What's New blog, the Fridays blog for this week, scroll down and find the vote. So you can choose between 3 different types of records. So there's an early regional Scottish census. There are, I think I said burials. Did I say burials? Possibly burials. And some English monumental inscriptions. Oh no, they were military records. They were military records. I'm forgetting myself. Beth actually saying, any good suggestions for apps to scan documents for those of us at home, please? Interesting you should mention that. Watch this space. Okay, I think we will leave it there then. Linda's actually saying, I've got a dentist 10 o'clock on Monday, just typical. Don't worry, if you're not not around 9 or 10 o'clock on Monday morning, don't worry, you're not going to miss out. But that's when it all goes live, so to speak. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, we will leave it there for the day. You can go and enjoy your weekend a little bit earlier than normal. You know, the weather's brightening up everywhere, which is just fantastic. I'm so pleased. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Always a pleasure. My favourite time of the week. And say goodbye to Jen as well, who's been dutifully manning the comments today. So in terms of what's going on next week for Findmypast from home, and again, I have to say this without giving too much away, on Wednesday, Jen is going to be doing a session with 2 other team members from Findmypast. I can't say too much more than that because it will give it away. So I'll leave it there. And then Alex is going to be back on Friday for Friday's Live. And then I am going to be interviewing a historian on Thursday, and we are going to be talking about how your Irish ancestors were perceived during the time of the British Empire, basically. So that's going to be a really, really good context builder for you all. That's it. Lovely. Okay, I will leave all of you to enjoy your weekend. Take care of yourselves, and continue sharing your thoughts with us and your stories with us. We love, love, love to hear them. And yeah, take care.